Evening, folks. Evening, peeps. How are we all doing today, this evening? Let me know if you're all good there in the chat, if you can hear that, because I had to move everything again. Make sure there's no echo in the background. I will get into what we got to talk about. We got to talk about last night's fights. I'm including the fights that happened in the States as well, because I did see that. I seen Oscar Valdez versus Miguel Berchelt. Got that way wrong. Absolutely got that. I done an accumulator on Friday, and I mean, literally, it couldn't have gone any worse. I put a $5 down, and the return, I trebled it, and the return was like $1,000. And I done shooting off to win on points. He drew. I done Avanesyan to knock Kelly out between rounds 9 to 12, and he stopped him in round 6. And then I done Berchelt to win via any means against Oscar Valdez. So, grand, it sounds fine, perfect. So yeah, my tips this weekend, apart from Avanesyan Kelly, and it just ended earlier than I thought it did, it would. They didn't go great. But in terms of everything else, I mean, it was a hell of a week of boxing. It was a hell of a weekend of boxing. Someone asked earlier in the chat, Drastic Aura said, "Big up, G. What your thoughts on Valdez performances? Shocked me. I really thought Valdez at this stage was he may still very well be, but I really didn't think he'd have enough to get through Miguel Berchelt. I thought Berchelt too big, simple, too accurate, hits too hard. Oscar Valdez went life and death with, what is that? Oh, okay. Nothing there. It was just something came up on screen. Hang on a sec. I'm doing this in my bedroom. And I thought, okay, it should be okay. I just got like a little Wi-Fi signal. So I'm hoping that stream is not choppy or it's not lagging. That's just what I'm worried about. I'm more worried about the Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi in my house is fine, but up here it's a bit further away. So just let me know if it's laggy. If it's not, just say it's cool or whatever. Because I just don't want anything to crash in this stream. So just let me know if the Wi-Fi is laggy or anything like that, or if it's good to know. But let me get back into that question, because it looks okay. Seems to be okay here. So yeah, my thoughts on that fight, right? I thought Valdez would be a bit too over, because he went life and death with Scott Quigg, you know, all that. And Miguel Berchelt I've seen several times. He's always looked fine to me. And just give me 1 sec. There we go. I just wanted to make sure all was good with that. So it seems fine. Doesn't seem laggy. Seems perfect. Sounds clear. Yeah, I thought Berchelt would actually stop him. I thought Berchelt would stop Oscar Valdez. But that's knockout of the year. Damn. The corner, I watched the full fight, the full 9 rounds. I think the corner should have stopped the fight after 8. Really, like, Valdez. The problem with Valdez is, though, right, is that I still see him struggling at 130. Like, yeah, Berchelt, for my money, was the best in the division. But, like, I would pick Gervonta Davis if he's still at 130 over Oscar Valdez. Even though, I mean, like, look at that. Definitely one of the greatest KOs in history. Yet, I mean, it was just perfect, wasn't it? The way he just walked in, he learned Berchelt made it easy because he was just kind of boring in, and that left hook just landed. Oh my God. The referee would have been, I wouldn't have complained if the referee stopped it after the first knockdown. To be fair, I wouldn't have complained massively if the referee had stopped it after the 4th round, because Valdez really got Berchelt bad in that round. What a knockout. I mean, I wish I'd seen it live, because they're the kind of knockouts that when you see them live, you just jump in your seat. I would have loved to have seen that live. I genuinely was convinced that Oscar Valdez was going to get knocked out. And I actually thought he'd get knocked out in a fairly one-sided fight. I thought Miguel Berchelt was going to dominate this fight. He was the one who got dominated. It was crazy. It was just, I didn't hear it. Maybe my sound wasn't good, but some people were saying that, and I seen this in the comment section of the video I watched on it, that Miguel Berchelt wanted the corner to stop it after the fourth, or not the fourth, after the 8 going into the 9th round, because he knew himself he couldn't win. Again, we saw last night 2 cases of cornermen who know when they need to pull their fighter out, and we saw a case last night of a corner who really should have pulled their fighter out. Big up Intangible, big up to you, my man. How are you, mate? How are you? Man, I always love seeing the guys in these chats. Intangible's got a great channel. Big up to Intangible every time. Big up to Intangible every time. Yeah, fight we missed that we didn't hear. Fedor Chutinov drew with Isaac Chilemba last night. So, Jesus, I mean, Chutinov, Fedor Chutinov is at 168. He's always had a good chin. He's a decent fighter, but he should be, seriously. I remember when he fought Buglioni a couple of years ago. It might be 5 years ago now, 6 years ago nearly. He looked like a middleweight in there, and he's still not grown into that weight. And Chilemba's moving down from 175 pounds. G-Man, love your description of the loudmouth who spoofs his way around. So many of them in life. I've seen them through. Yeah, that was someone in a job I work with, and I'll never forget meeting that guy for the first time. And I always use this as an example because it was so obvious. Like, I mean, I'll put it like this, right? I'll just explain it here, right? I met this guy in 2 minutes. I was like, what the fuck? He was making racist, and this was on his first day. He was making racist comments. He was making comments about everyone in the job. And then when he was with, like, on his own with other people, he'd be really like, you know, I'm the man, I'm fun. And people were like, oh, this guy's cool. I was like, this lad's a racist prick. Seriously, I was like, this lad's a racist motherfucker. And I just didn't like him. I just didn't like him because of all that. And the problem is that you're trying to, you know, that this lad's a dick, other people don't. So you come across as a dick. But yeah, like, that was kind of how it was. And, you know, it's a lot. At the end of the day, you can only hide. You can use that charisma to get around certain things, but eventually your true colors will show. And that was what happened. He ended up getting himself fired because he was just an idiot. But that's how it is. And when you say spoof, it was funny because I had to sit with him on the first day, and I was like, I need to try and make conversation with this guy because I don't want to sit like an idiot and just not talk to him. I was like, there has to be something I can meet him in the middle with. And I asked him where he worked before here because he only had a job. I was like, where did you work before here? And he turns around to me and he goes, he was in a bank. It was an AIB, actually. It was in a bank. And I was like, in the call center, because they have a call center for the bank. He's like, yeah, call center, mate. And he didn't talk. He was like, yeah, you know, call center, mate. You know, yeah. I was like, oh, yeah. Which department? Yeah, I was in this department there, bud. I was like, oh, you must know my friend, because the department he was in, my friend is the supervisor of that department in Swords. And he's like, never heard of him, buddy. And I was like, you only just finished working there? Yeah, I only finished there last month. I was like, grand. So I got my phone, text my mate, and I was like, did you ever hear of this guy? He said he worked in your... He's like, he didn't work here. Not with me. I was like, all right, yeah. Because I was like, yeah, brilliant. So yeah, spoofer in a nutshell. It was, yeah. Where's Champ Ross? Big up the Champ Ross. Big up the Champ Ross every time. I missed a load of people. I'm sorry, lads. I literally was in another... I was trying to make sure this stream was good. Well, big up to Rich. Yes, G, looking forward to this. Kelly got smashed. He did. Hashtag G. Man, I ever since they announced that, could you imagine if this fight had happened in 2018? I think it was either the Bellew Usyk undercard or it was the Kell Brook undercard when he fought Zarafa. It was one of the two. And they weighed in. But Kelly had a bad case of flu, and this was 2018, and they pulled that fight. So imagine that fight. Well, they said he had flu. I reckon it wasn't. I reckon it was probably that they knew it was too soon. Because imagine Josh Kelly in 2018. In 2018, he just come off wins over guys like, what was the guy's name? Something George and Carlos Molina. To go from that in 2018 to fight David Avanesyan. Consider we're in 2021 now, and it's still too soon. I mean, Jesus, people. Imagine what Avanesyan would have done in 2018. That fight would have been done in 3 rounds. And you know what? I reckon this loss wouldn't have done Josh Kelly's reputation any good. But imagine he'd gone in there, and Sky were really big hype in Josh Kelly in 2018. Imagine he'd gone in there with Avanesyan in 2018 and he got absolutely iced in a couple of rounds. That would have been, that might have knocked them all together. Seriously, that might have knocked them all together. Will Dave Allen fight this year? I hope not, mate. I hope not. Big up to Tony. Hope you're good, brother. Man, I'm brilliant. It was a great day here in Dublin. I got a load of stuff done. It was fun. It was fun. But in response to that, I hope not. I hope we don't see him for his sake more so than anything else. For his sake. See, Dave Allen is one of them guys where you really do get the impression, what could he do without boxing? Because look at the shape he's in since he's retired. He looks in really bad shape. Like, he puts on a serious amount of weight. Halim, hashtag GMazRocks, good evening. And everyone get your anger out tonight. Oh, man. What? It's been fun having boxing back. I don't see why they couldn't have done this in January, giving us some fights, but I'll take them now. Valdez versus Stevenson. You know what, right? That might be an interesting fight, because though Shakur Stevenson is a good boxer, he's very good, he's still quite, how do I say it in a nice way, boyish. Like, he still doesn't seem to have fully developed his man strength yet. And you wonder, how would he be able to cope with someone like an Oscar Valdez, you know? But I'm sure he'd probably be, I probably would edge towards Stevens in that fight. I think he'd be too accurate, but it'd be a great fight. Good evening, Ben. Tommy, audio sounds fine. Nicholas, big up, G-Man. Hope you're well. Darren, Joe Stunner, the man. Mark still ducking you, huh? He still won't. He still wants that family-sized bag of Monster Munch, does he? Big up to Joe. I know they're all good. Letitia, big up, G-Man. How's it going? What did you think of Robbie Davis Jr.? You didn't see him right. Yeah, it was. That was a good fight. That was actually a good fight. I think that I was amazed that Davis Jr. lasted the full 12 or the full 10 after the first 4 rounds, because early on he was getting hit with right hand after right hand after right hand, and I was like, this isn't going to last. And then when he got dropped, he was actually having a good round in the third, but then when he got dropped, I was just like, oh, this is going to end. He did bring it back. He pulled it back well. The right man won. I think his name was Venezuela or something like that. He was very good. Like, he was accurate. But Davis Jr., his defense was non-existent. Like, he was fighting southpaw. He was getting hit with right-hand counters, which is the shot you use against the southpaw. But he just couldn't seem to adjust to it. And then I think even he knew. He was like in the corner, will I go back orthodox? And then Ingle was like, no, don't. That was like such a... If you can't adjust, like, switching southpaw and fighting that, like, if you're doing the two, it takes a long time to adjust to that. So it might have been better. Like, look at Conlon. They're trying to get him to do that, but he's just switching. It might have been better to just do it slow, like, just incrementally do it. You know, if you don't feel it's working, swap it up. Like, I remember loads of fighters. Like, do you remember when Demetrius Andre fought Jack Kulkai? He fought the early half of that fight southpaw, and he was struggling. And then he actually switched orthodox. Or it might have been the other way around. I think it might have been the other way around, but he done it one way, and then he swapped to the other stance, and it worked out 10 times better because he was able to adjust. I'm not sure. I think Demetrius Andre is a naturally orthodox fighter. I'm pretty sure he fights out of... I'm not sure what stance Andre's in. It's either southpaw or orthodox, but I know his natural stance is the opposite, if you know what I mean. So if he is fighting southpaw, he's naturally an orthodox fighter, or vice versa. It could work sometimes. Yeah, man, the bets really... I really did think Chilemba would win. Or not Chilemba, I really did think Chudenov would win on points. I think I had Wallin to win by late stoppage. That didn't happen. I thought Wallin would cut Dominic Brazil. He did everything but. You know, because Dominic Brazil, as we know, I mean, Dominic Brazil, like, he is harder to miss than he is to hit. If you're missing Dominic Brazil, then there's a problem. Got one right, Marku. Yeah, I got that right. I got a few. Valdez was fantastic. He was really, really good in there. Big up George, big up G-Man's Rocks, had a great pack. Yeah, man, we're getting these good. I don't know, like, I mean, someone commented earlier in the chat, where is it actually? This was actually, I seen it, I just noticed it. Last night proved the GB setup isn't designed at success in the pro games. Well, when you consider that literally Josh Kelly was one of the last from Team GB to turn over, from the 2016 squad anyway. And even before a lot of these guys turned over, a lot of people were saying that this GB squad, with the exception of Joshua Buatsi, they didn't really rate any of them. It's amazing to think that Buatsi's decent. Like, I do rate him. Do I think he'll win a world title? Well, light heavyweight's a tough division. But it shows that, you know, their amateur system is flawed. They really are. But I suppose it's like that in Ireland as well. Like, I mean, Ireland is probably worse because they encourage them to stay amateur, because they obviously want, Olympic gold, this, that, and the other. Ireland is really bad, but obviously in the Team GB, they're obviously setting these up for just amateur success as opposed to pros. Because if you think of it like this, right, they don't teach power punching in Ireland or in the UK in amateur gyms. They don't teach it. They actually discourage you. If they see you, at least certainly in Ireland, I've seen this myself in some of the old amateur gyms I was in. If you're trying to load up on the bag and, focus on power punching, so if you're throwing a hook, if you're trying to slip and, really crank the hook in, they're telling you, oh, don't do that. Don't do that. What are you doing that for? That's silly. It's like, yeah, but I want to be able to just develop the power. Like, oh, no, that's silly. Don't do that. You want to just do this, like little pitter-patter punches. And I think that's just drummed into these guys. Like Lawrence Acolli is the only one who I believe is going to have a decent pro career. And saying that, I reckon when he moves up to heavyweight, he is going to get absolutely lifted off the ground. Seriously. But I reckon he'll beat Glowacki, definitely. Valdez was brilliant last night. Terrific tactics. Yeah, Eddie Reynoso is a good trainer. Eddie Reynoso is a good trainer. Mad Chad, hit the likes. It is free. It is free. It is free. Yeah, but I thought that all right, because I couldn't hear it, but Berchelt told his corner there was no hope and the fight was over, but his corner told him he could still do it. I suppose his corner were banking on the fact that Berchelt can punch, and maybe they were hoping that, and Valdez can be defensively flawed at times. But when a fighter himself even knows you really shouldn't send it, like, that's why you have corners, to protect the fighter from themselves. I mean, you have certain fighters who are too brave, who want to keep going. And when look, if you're looking at a fight and this is only going one way, you're taking a beat and you need to pull the fighter out. So Berchelt's going to need to look at that corner and think what he's going to do moving forward. Because put it like this, if they'd stopped the fight in that 8th round, we wouldn't have a knockout. No one's going to top that knockout, I don't think. I think that's going to be knockout of the year. But for me, it's just like, what the fuck? If the fighter knows it's done, because he got knocked out badly, they took him to hospital, and if you just listened to him, pulled him out, that wouldn't have happened. Not gonna lie, the size difference made me almost second guess myself for Rivas. Yeah, man, it was just, I was shocked. Everyone gets a majority draw against Chilemba. Chilemba's tricky. I've got to remember when he fought Kovalev, and that was Kovalev still in his prime. And he was giving Kovalev, he didn't win the fight, but he definitely gave Kovalev a lot much harder time than I've seen others give him. Oh, big up to Nick 49 in the chat, smash the like on the way in, and big up to you, G-Man, and the chat, hashtag G-Man's rocks. Of course, man, every single time. British boxers don't seem to be able to adapt their game plan in fights generally. Yeah, like, for me, like, that's weird, because, like, you look at, like, Josh Warrington last week, you look at, like, Josh Kelly this week, and you just think to yourself, like, with Josh Warrington, you were just like, just box this guy, because you don't have the power to put a dent in him. Why are you insisting on, if you keep getting tagged with these same shots doing the same thing, why don't you just adjust it? Why don't you just change it up a bit? Like, box him, or just try and stick and move. But it's only when Hatman said it in his video that when you look at British fighters against Mexican fighters, you really see, especially in the smaller divisions, you really do tend to see just the difference in training. And look, I'm someone who's been saying this for the longest time. I don't believe that you need an extensively long amateur career. It definitely helps having a good amateur career where you've won a few things. It helps in a lot of ways. But for me, I much prefer seeing a fighter who just gained his experience in the amateurs, turn pro, and don't worry about, you see, this is one other thing. This is kind of a double-edged sword if you think about it. With turning pro with a major promoter, it definitely helps you in terms of getting paid, getting, a decent life, getting decent backing. But if you're someone who, like, let's say Josh Kelly maybe would have needed 15 fights, gradually being stepped up before going in there confidently with Avanesyan, gradually stepping him up. But because Sky, Eddie Hearn are hyping him so much, Adam Boot are hyping him, and because he's in the public eye with Sky, you're essentially pushing him forward before he's ready. Whereas if you're someone who maybe, let's just say for argument's sake, you're a decent amateur, you don't turn pro with a massive contract, but you can kind of just go through the gears, you can fight somebody small, hall shows, work your way up. It pays more dividends in the long run, I think, because there's not that pressure on you to be taking fights before you're ready, you know? And like, lest we forget, this fight could have happened in 2018. Like that really, I said it before, I say it again, that would have been a car crash. Jesus, could you imagine what would have happened to Josh Kelly if he'd fought in 2018? If he'd fought Avanesyan, that would have ended. That wouldn't have gone 3 rounds. I'm telling you now. Kelly would have been absolutely out. Kelly would have been out of his depth. He really would have been out of his depth after that first round. If they'd fought 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, actually, technically, it was the end of 2018. He really would have been out of his depth. He would have been screwed. Agreed, was completely on point from it was brilliant. Best I've seen him in. That's the best I've seen him fight since he fought. Oh, the guy Lee Selby fought. His name is hard to pronounce. His name escapes me. Oh, Yevgenovich, I think it is. Yevgeny Yevgenovich or something like that. That was the best I've seen him prior to this. British boxers don't train boxers to fight Mexicans. Yeah, they don't. That's one thing I like about that's one thing, other thing, good thing about Eastern European fighters is that in there they are training you to punch hard. You know, the last time before I just decided competing in boxing is not for me anymore, I was working with a Eastern European trainer, and all he would focus on was power punching. And I noticed the massive improvement, especially in the uppercuts, just doing that. Whereas before you'd be training in amateur gyms, and the idea of saying, you know, can you teach me how to make my punches go, like throw them harder? Oh, don't worry about that. We don't need that. It's like, well, I'd like it, obviously. Yeah, Avanesyan would have destroyed a man. Jesus. Kelly does not have the power for his style. I think when he buzzed Avanesyan in the second round, and I think that was more Avanesyan getting caught by surprise because his legs seem to come back fairly quick. I don't think Josh Kelly's feather-fisted, but I definitely don't think he hits hard enough to trouble a lot of these guys. Kelly, the way in looked different when he was in the ring. And you know what as well is, right? These silly little things, and I think they are silly, that Adam Boot was getting Kelly to do. Like, he had Michael Conlon cover up the camera when they got into the changing rooms because it's like, we don't want to give away or get real little silly things like that. I mean, why do you care? Like, you don't tend to see that a lot of the times. He couldn't keep David Avanesyan on. No. But Kerman Leharata, I'm probably saying his name wrong, he couldn't keep Avanesyan on, and he was known as a puncher. I remember when I watched Leharata fight Frankie Gavin and Bradley Skeet, I was like, he'd beat Josh Kelly. And that was 2018 before he got battered by Avanesyan. But it really does show that it shows how competitive the welterweight division is. Because Avanesyan at world level has always been found wanting. You know, when he stepped up against Peterson, when he fought Kowalskis, he was found wanting. He steps back to European level and he's going through these guys. It shows just how, it shows that gap, you know, at welterweight, especially welterweight's always a strong division, but it just goes to show how tough it is to get to world, because you have world level guys like Danny Garcia, Ugas, Keith Thurman, if he's still sticking around. They're the world level guys, right? And you've elite, you know, there's the talent at welterweight is just, it's there for all to see. I remember I saw people saying, you know, in 2018 that they'd have no problem seeing Kell Brook versus Josh Kelly, and they fancied Josh Kelly to beat Kell Brook. I mean, Kell Brook, maybe now, but probably still not now. But imagine that. That's the hype that was around Josh Kelly in 2018. 2018 was kind of his peak. It really was. I mean, Josh Kelly, when he was being hyped by Matchroom and Sky and they were shitting on guys like Yulusinoff, that was kind of when Kelly was at his peak. And that almost backfired because they wanted to put him in there with Avanesyan in 2018. And Jesus, if he hadn't got the flu, and I doubt it very much that it was the flu, to be honest. I think it was just more he didn't want to fight. Not that he didn't want to fight, but I think Adam Boot knew this is too soon. And yeah, he would have got absolutely smashed to pieces. Worse than he was last night if he'd fought him in 2018. Inga was given, keep southpaw and just keep it. Yeah, I mean, like, you're looking at your fighter, you're seeing he can't adjust to the right hand. He can't adjust, he can't make the adjustments. He's getting hit with right hands, switching back to orthodox, his natural stance. There you go, we're good to go. Stop banging your head against the brick wall. Because it was a competitive fight, and who knows, Davis Jr. might have actually been able to do something if he had him in the right stance. Hey, G, man, best regards from Min Shakur. Big fan of the channel. Thank you, mate. Expect big things from them Wanderers. Jordan Reynolds in 3 weeks was with him over a week, about to shake up the division. I have to look at him actually. Jordan Reynolds, I do. There's a lot of Irish fighters who are turning pro now. I suspect because of the Olympics, not probably, well, God knows what's happening, but there's a few turning pro I'll be keeping my eye on. There's Jordan Reynolds. There's a guy, what's the guy's name? He's from Cork. He's only about 19. And I think he's with Dave Colwell. Stephen Kearns, I'll be keeping my eye on him as well. Definitely. Stevenson. Yeah, that's what I think as well, but he's accurate though, so don't underestimate the accuracy. Olympic class, man, but they were talked about not being the greatest even before. Like I remember, oh Jesus, before somebody's even turned pro, I think even before Boatsi turned pro, there were people saying he's the only one they could really see doing something, you know, out of all the GB guys. So, I mean, that whole squad is just really underachieved. That's the problem. Like, that whole squad really has achieved poorly. Like, I mean, we have to have a look at this squad that are coming out of is it Tokyo where the Olympics are this year? If they go ahead, we need to see how that goes. But yeah, man, it's not been good. I think it's a joke how Sky Matchroom make these fights like Kelly Avanesyan, Bellew, Hay, White Rivas, etc. to be the best fights, the biggest fights of the year. Pathetic. Yeah, man. I mean, like, the whole Sky Matcher thing, like Kelly Avanesyan with the Bellew, Hay, you know, they're trying to see, they're selling it to a casual audience, I suppose. So selling Bellew, Hay to a casual audience isn't hard. It's vice versa with Rivas, because most people just see an undefeated guy and they'll say coming off a good win, this, that, and the other. You'd be amazed what you can sell to the casual audience. I'll put it to you like that. I mean, like I said it before, I'll say it again. During the summer when the pubs were letting you in to have food and I'd be out with my friends, all they'd ever talk to me about was not about like Povetkin, was not about Wilder, was not about anything. It was just like, Tyson Jones, what do you think? Tyson Jones, yeah, Tyson Jones. I was like, I couldn't give less of a shit about that fight. Oh, Tyson Jones. That's kind of what you're doing. Like, it's easy to kind of sell these things. Big up to Sam Jones and Florian Marku. Yeah, Marku, apart from the 6th round, that's the best I've ever seen him fight. Really impressed me. I think that I think in some ways that Jamie Stewart fight was a wake-up call. Even though he won it, although he didn't get the decision, it was a draw. He won the fight. He was too lackadaisical. You know, he was happy to take those few little shots off Jamie Stewart because Jamie Stewart is a real club fighter. But he'll know he knows better not to do that. He did get lackadaisical against Charlton, and he was made to pay. But Charlton's a good fighter. He's a good little fighter. So if he can get down to 140 safely, he could be a decent operator at that division, you know. Him against Robbie Davis might not be a bad shout, actually, if they're still at 140. Thoughts on Broner, Robert? Man, Broner, I didn't see the fight, but I heard about it. The guy was an undefeated janitor, wasn't he? Or he might have had a draw. And that's not, he is a janitor. That's what they said his job was. Broner at this stage, mate, like, Broner hasn't had a meaningful win since when? I mean, Jesus, when's the last meaningful win? Malignaggi? Seriously, is that the last meaningful win? And even then, you could put that in question because Malignaggi, you're talking years. Like, I mean, he's beat guys like Fiafane. He beat, who did he beat? He beat Granadas on a split decision. Adrian Granadas. Like, he's been really, AB is all over the place. I'm not sure Conor Benn should be turning his nose up at a fight with Marku. Conor was telling it like it's like he's a sensational world operator. I think Marku would give him a very competitive fight. Like, Conor Benn has looked much better than Conor Benn's done better than I thought he'd do, because I remember seeing him early on in his career, and I remember just thinking this guy is better. Put it like this: I said to myself in 2017 after I saw his brother Harley, I said, Conor Benn is slightly better than Harley Benn. And that's saying something. When you're slightly better than Harley Benn, that's saying something. You should be leagues better, because Harley Benn is rubbish. Conor Benn never impressed me. You know, when I saw him against Payne, Conor Benn struck me as someone who was trying to how do I describe it? He was almost trying to prove he was the harder man as opposed to the better fighter, if you know what I mean. Like whenever he'd get hurt by Payne, he'd be like gritting his teeth, he'd be like, yeah, I made a tear up and this. And it's just like, you don't need to be doing that. You're going life and death with a journeyman. So he's really calmed down a bit, which is good. And he has looked a lot better. But again, someone like Florian Marku, yeah, he could give him problems. I still think Kelly would give Conor Benn night and day problems. I don't think Conor Benn is big enough. Like people keep talking about Conor Benn being a big welterweight. This is a guy by his own admission who said that he didn't want to cut to 140, so he did a few extra weights. He said that a couple of years ago because people were saying, "Would you not go to 140?" And he was like, "Yeah, but I've been lifting a few more weights, so I'm comfy at 147 now." So this is still quite a small guy. Can you see the rest of Gallagher stable, Callum Johnson over to Queensberry? It's hard to say, really. I mean, like, I know the Smith brothers, Liam, Stephen. I'm not sure about Callum, but I know most of them were all with Queensberry at one stage. Liam was the last to jump ship in 2019. Yeah, it was 2019 because he fought Egerton. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, to be fair, some of the Smith brothers have all had amicable splits. Frank has very few females, if any, and I don't think he's any now since what was her name? Nicola Adams retired. I mean, Jesus, I don't think he's any female, so I can't see that happening. I'd say it could have been just that Eddie Hearn and Callum Johnson just didn't see eye to eye. Maybe, I mean, like, price. I think more so Joe Gallagher. I mean, Joe Gallagher will price anyone out of anything. You take a journeyman and give him the Joe Gallagher. His record 0-13. How much you giving this guy? I will give him $1,000. Oh no. He's 0-13. You got to go by the record. Give him 13 grand. Some crap like that. Big up to Jeff. Salute G-Man and the chat. Don't understand how Adrian thinks he won. Adrian Broner is just all over the place. As I said, like, you're probably talking about 7-8 years since he had a meaningful fight, like win. Greetings from the judge. Big up to the judge. I think the WBA tricket title that Kelly and Ben had made them believe they were world level because they were ranked. Kelly has the same problem. When he turned pro. Yeah, it's the problem with those tricket titles. And then, like, look at Anthony Yard. He won, what was it, an Intercontinental WBO title and a European WBO title. I mean, like, that got him a number 2. Like, those titles just get you rankings, but they don't mean anything. And I do think that they make you, they gas. I think with Kelly, I think he was just gassed by what everyone was saying about him. The hype with Sky, this, that, and the other. To me, it was just like, why? Like, based off of what? Like, I've seen nothing from you, no offense, that would make me believe you're as good as these guys make it out to be, And the fact that, like, I used to get so annoyed when I'd watch you loosen off, and I'd be like, yeah, he's a bit rough around the edges. He needs to change a few things, but you see a fundamentally good fighter there. And you see Sky absolutely just shut him down whenever he's in the, like, do you remember Matthew Macklin? Every single time you loosen off with fight on Sky in the UK early on in his career, he was just like, oh, this guy's, yeah, Josh Kelly's 10 times better. Oh no, this guy's no good. It's like, mate, come on, like, what the fuck? Based off of what, like? Eddie is confirmed. Warrington will rematch Lara. Not sure I agree with that. I wouldn't, personally. I genuinely don't think that's a very good idea. Irrespective of fans being in attendance or not, I don't see that going well for Josh Warrington personally. I really don't. Look, Warrington, when do you ever see Warrington up on his feet boxing? What's he going to keep? Like, this is the problem. What's Warrington going to keep Lara off with, Mauricio Lara off with? I see that going the exact same way. I mean, personally, I agree with Hatman. British fighters should really avoid Mexican fighters at all costs, especially in the lower weight divisions, or fighters from that region. I mean, especially if they have a bit of pop on them. I mean, they really should. I mean, like, do you remember when Conlon was like trying to go down to 122, and I think they were going to name a mandatory or something like that for Navarrete before he moved up? I mean, could you imagine Mick Conlon versus Navarrete? That right there would be like a lamb to the slaughter. Seriously, could you imagine that? Yeah, my prediction league went to tits this week. I was so close to topping the group last week as well. Like I was like so close. One fight, one round in the Lee Wood fight, and I would have probably topped the prediction league last week, which was crazy. This league, different story. It went hits up. It went hits up. If Warrington gives us, that'd be a great fight. I'd love that. That'd be a very, very good fight. I'd love to see it. Look, there's good fight to be had, and as well as that, you need to remember this, right? It is in effect, it is actually quite a decent move because Frank Warren has that good working relationship with Bob Arum, so you would imagine that the fights like Joe Smith Jr. versus Maxim Vlasov winner, etc., will be easier to make for someone like a Callum Johnson. So I like that. I think it's a good move. The only issue I had with it is they said it was a long-term deal. Long-term deals with Frank Warren don't tend to usually go well, personally. So I'd avoid like if you were signing with Frank Warren, I'd maybe sign like a 3, maybe a 5-fight deal max. I wouldn't sign like well, just assume it's a 3-year deal. I wouldn't do that because God knows where it might be. Yeah, Team GB is bullshit for training. Yeah, I've heard the stories like about him. I really have. As I said, like the Irish amateur scene is pretty much the same. Like, I mean, you see it with the fighters. A lot of them when they turn pro, they haven't a breeze how to fight pro. They really don't. Are you serious? They try and get away from hitting hard. That's been the downfall of these British prospects. No, well, that's what they do. Like they do it in Ireland, they do it in the UK. They really try and drum the amateur system into these fighters. So, like, I'll put it to you like this. If you look at Paddy Barnes, right? Now, Paddy Barnes was shot. He was shot to pieces on his pro debut. You could see he looked jaded. He looked like an ancient fighter on his pro debut, right? The guy only knew how to throw pitter-patter punches, score points. Look what happened when he fought Jay Harris. And Jay Harris is all action. He is a pro, right? He punches hard. He throws punches. He sits on his shots. Jay Harris is a proper professional, right? And he's a cool guy too. Big up to Jay Harris. You saw what happened. I mean, Paddy Barnes couldn't put a dent in Jay Harris. He got absolutely... But that was a great fight, by the way. For my money, 2019 fight of the year was Paddy Barnes versus Jay Harris. Absolutely brilliant fight, so it was. If any of you haven't seen that, I really would recommend you go and watch Paddy Barnes versus Jay Harris. It was a hell of a fight. For my money, that was 2019 fight of the year. It went 5 rounds. There was blood. There was knockdowns. There was big shots from both guys. And it was in Belfast. For my money, Jay Harris versus Paddy Barnes was 2019 fight of the year. That was such a good fight. That was a good way for I know he lost, but that was a good way for Paddy Barnes to go out because he went out because before that, believe you me, he was boring the arse off me. So he went out in a good fight. Rumors Johnson versus Smith for the vacant WBO. I can't see that happening, man. They'll definitely give Vlasov that shot. They'll definitely give Vlasov that shot. I don't know if there's any way around that. I can't see them getting around that. I know the WBO and Frank and all that have good relations, but I can't see them getting around that. I mean, they were literally on the verge of fighting if it wasn't been for, you know what? It's nice to see. But yeah, it's weird, man. It's really weird what's been going on, you know, making these competitive fights and his fighters getting absolutely just battered, you know. Yeah, Berchelt took some serious. That was some knockout. God damn it, that was a knockout and a half. I mean, I didn't watch the knockout before. I just wanted to watch it like, you know, as is, if you know what I mean. So I was just like, right, I'm only going to kind of just like watch it. Just waiting to see what the knockout looks like. I was just checking a text there, and I knew people told me it was a good knockout, but I wasn't expecting that. No one's going to top that this year. I don't think so. Yeah. Oh, lads, poor Kelly. He would have got bashed. He would have got smashed. That wouldn't have gone 3 rounds. Seriously, that wouldn't have gone 3 rounds. And that really would have. That would have knocked the hype right out of Kelly then. You know, if that had happened in 2018. Big up to Byron Newton, sub G man. That was a great fight. Big up to hashtag G man's rocks. You gotta go. You gotta keep that. You gotta get that in there. All Brits getting smashed. Think about all the champions we had a couple of years ago. It is. I was only thinking about that the other day. Like 2016, 2017 was like the peak of like British boxing. If you think about it, right? It was just, you had loads of champions. You had loads of competitive fights. There was just so much. There was just so much going in 2016. You had fighters like Triple G wanting to come to the UK and all that. It was just, it was fun. It was fun to be part of that actually. And then like what happens is a lot of the fighters who were champions, some of them were near, like we're in the prime years, but the prime years go, and then you get these new crop. And like I remember in 2016, people saying a lot of these GB guys, a lot of them coming out, not exactly, stellar, not exactly stellar. And they weren't. And, you've seen some of the other guys they had on the GB squad didn't go to the Olympics, guys like Felix Cash. I've watched Felix Cash every single fight, I think bar one. And I have never, ever, ever, ever seen another than a fairly run-of-the-mill fighter. They signed Jake Ball, who was like a GB. Was he like, what was he? He was in the GB team, and you had this 6'4" lanky light heavyweight who had a chin probably worse than Amir. Seriously, he had a Seth Mitchell chin, all right, because he was right up there. A Seth Mitchell kind of chin. He couldn't take a single shot. Seriously, I mean, that I'd never seen punch resistance that bad. Or maybe I have, but it was just, that was fun. I couldn't believe how bad he was in terms of, he actually, like, you think like a 6'4" southpaw light heavyweight would be quite decent with a bit of punching power, but he just couldn't take it. You'd only have to touch the guy. Do you know who he had? He had a David Howe chin. That's what we call it. He had a David Howe chin. What was Josh Kelly doing for 2 years? Probably looking in the mirror, posing for Instagram pics, etc., etc. I can't imagine. I can't imagine he was doing much else because he's not learned much. Can Gill beat Lara or Navarrete? No. No. The very notion that Jordan Gill could beat either one of them. The question is, what round does he get iced? Because seriously, he will get absolutely... Jordan Gill would get beaten badly against both of them. Probably Navarrete would kill the poor kid. Seriously. I mean, Jesus Christ. Jordan Gill versus Emmanuel Navarrete. Jordan Gill, Mick Conlon, either one of them. And I said, because remember, like there was, you could have said that they were both top ranked fights, still are. Could you imagine Mick Conlon or someone like that against Emmanuel Navarrete? I don't want it. That's like, no, LR, big up G, man. That's not good. That would just be, oh man, I wouldn't like to see it. Fast tracking prospects often fails. Any fighter who's young enough to go via area, British, Commonwealth, that is the best route you can take a fighter. Like, I mean, that's one thing about Frank Warren that well, he's not really been doing it now. But that's one thing I liked about Warren. I mean, there's very few things to like about old fish eyes, but that was one of them, is that he would take the fighters to domestic level route. And I was listening to Ty Boots live stream last night. And Ty Boot, man, I love his live stream so much. But he was like, yeah, look at Johnny Nelson. He lost 3 fights. He went area, British, Commonwealth, etc. Look what he did. That's really the best way to do it. Because, look, Josh Kelly fought Ray Robinson and Winston Campos and then went straight in against Avanesyan. I mean, like a Chris Jenkins, a Gary Cochran or someone like that. Maybe that would have helped you in better stead than just going straight in, balls to the wall against Avanesyan and getting bashed. I think Avanesyan against Porter, that'd be a massacre. Yeah, that would be man, Avanesyan, that shows how competitive the welterweight division is. How about this? Oh yeah, that'd be a good fight actually. That actually wouldn't be a bad fight. Chisora is the cat with 9 lives. It's amazing. We need to get see British boxers over to the US. Look at Cam when he was training with Freddie Roach. People always talk about Amir Khan when he was training with Freddie Roach. I still think Khan was better with Virgil Hunter. I think with Freddie Roach, believe you me, go and look at some of his fights with Freddie Roach. He would his shape would be all over the place in the ring. If you ever look at Amir Khan, he'd be running around the ring like he'd actually tangle his legs together if you'd ever see that. And I don't mean that as in like they were tired. His legs would come together when he was moving around with Freddie Roach. His shape was all over the place with him. But him with Virgil Hunter, that was actually a great fit. Like Virgil Hunter could keep him disciplined. That's what he needed. Apart from the fight against what was the guy's name? The guy who dropped him. in 2013. What was the guy's name? His name escapes me. I can't remember. The guy who dropped him. It was in Sheffield. Wilder fought on the undercard. That guy. Apart from that, he always looked good under. What the fuck was his name? I can't remember. I feel sorry, even though I never watched him before. I've seen plenty of Josh Kelly fights, believe me. I've seen enough of Josh Kelly over the years. Kelly needs to rework his style. I'm missing loads of questions, man. Honestly, I'm going to skip a few real quick because I seen guys like pop up and I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, 64 in the chat, lads. If you could, it's free. You could smash the like button on the way in. I appreciate it. Definitely. Yo, there we go. Big up, shout out to Blue Collar Sports TV. Big up to him. Big up to Dell every single time, man. One of the best channels on YouTube. Seriously. Love listening to Dell. Whenever I see one of his videos come up, I'm always like, yeah, I'll have a listen to that. Sometimes I save them for the next day so I can listen to them at work. But big up to Blue Collar Sports. One of the best. Got Unrivaled. Mark, big up to him again. One of the best. Spuddy has an Audi. I actually haven't seen Spuddy on a live stream in ages. I haven't seen him in a while. Spuddy has an OnlyFans account where he calls fats. What does that say? Fat skits chips off the old Spud. Oh, chip off the old Spud. Oh, jeez. I was wondering what you were saying there. Oh, man. Johnny Fisher, the guy he fought, looks like a bank robber. Yeah, Johnny Fisher, I'll be keeping an eye on him. He's not looking too bad. There's a few little things there. He looks okay. Johnny Fisher. We'll keep an eye on him. He doesn't look. He 21 years old, lads. I couldn't believe that. Hey, I'll big up to Dan. I hope Conor Benn learns from the past couple of weeks. I think you go to war and get the same treatment. I don't think Vargas is a big enough puncher, actually, to be honest with you. I think Vargas has seen much better days, to be honest with you. So I reckon Ben should be okay. I do question Ben. There's a lot of things I still question. Ben looks better than he did when he turned pro. When he turned pro first, I thought this guy is absolutely going nowhere. I was like, this guy is going fucking nowhere. So he's doing a lot better than I thought he would. But there's a lot of questions about Conor Benn I still have. Getting a close draw with Wade Robinson. He lost that fight. He lost that fight. Definitely. But as I say, no need to, in the future, I'll invest on guests. Oh, Dell's asking a question, I think. No need to pay, bro. In the future, I'll invite guests on. Oh, definitely, you're asking someone else, mate. Late to the stream. Not sure if you answered this question. How did you score the fight before the stoppage? If we're talking about Avanesyan and Kelly, I had Avanesyan ahead. I gave Kelly the first 2 rounds, and every round after that, I gave to Avanesyan. And again, I know I said this, but I said it last time, and I have to say it again. I want to know what the scorecards read for that fight, because I don't think you could have had anyone else scoring the fight any other way than you could maybe give Kelly a share of the 3rd, but you would have had to have Avanesyan win in the 4th, 5th, and if the 6th had ended, he would have definitely won the 6th. Josh Taylor on James English podcast said some interesting stuff about GB squad. Basically, it was basically clinky as fuck, and he knew he wouldn't get selected. Yeah, that's the way amateur boxing is with some people, though. Like, some people, it's like it's not how good you are, it's who you know. I've known people who try to get into the Irish team, and they've been like, you see that lad, he's a fucking wanker, but I'm trying to be nice to him. Why? Because he has one of the saying, if he says a bad word against you, it could mean you don't get picked for the squad. So it's always been like that. I think the undercard of the Council Frampton card is still going ahead. Does anyone know who's fighting? No, honestly, is it still going ahead? Is it still going ahead? Wait there a sec. No, I was going to say I was going to look it up, and then I was like, who the fuck is on that card, actually? They're probably going to bring that whole thing to Dubai. They probably will. Neuro, big up to G. Big up, man. Big up to you. Shout out, man, every single time. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one there. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. LOL. Now, Conlon versus Navarrete is a complete mismatch. Conlon with Adam Boot as well. He is on his way to a massive knockout loss sooner or later. Sooner or later, he's on his way to a massive knockout loss. Saw the Broner fight before I fell asleep. Was usual pot shot and Broner only in it for the money. His name will get. You see, that's the problem. AB can just the name will just pay for itself. You know, gets him some money and gets him the paydays. But Jesus, people, he is seeing better days. Is Hardy Ben still fighting? I can't remember any promoter giving him opportunities after the defeat to Lee Hallett. To this day, Hallett's only win. Yeah, he's fought since then. I think he's had like two points decisions, I think. No, he's definitely fought twice, but I think they've been points decisions. But yeah, like Lee Hallett was like 0-16, and he buzzed Conor Benn as well. If you watch that fight, he buzzed him in the last round, or Harley Benn, like I remember I seen snippets of his pro debut, but the first time I seen him fight live was he fought a guy called Paul Cummins. And Paul Cummins has, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, one of the biggest, longest necks I've ever seen on a fighter. He's like 6 foot, and he's like 6'1", and if he had a normal size neck, he'd be about 5'10". It's like his neck is just elongate. It's just like Mr. Stretch. And I remember this guy couldn't box at all, and then all of a sudden he just started jabbing, and Hardy Ben hadn't the breeze what to do. And it was literally, I was just like, what the hell? This guy is just no. I've seen fighters who've not had many amateur fights who you can still see there's a bit of talent there, but with this, it was just like, no go. I was like, no go. Not a chance. Ben was the same height as Avanesyan. Yeah, I really did think Kelly would actually use his height and reach a bit better, to be fair, than he did. What was this say here? I doubt Hearn and Matcher will be with Sky beyond their current contracts. 100%. 100% agree with you, Joe. I can't see it. I can't see them staying on. I'm sure Sky would like it, but I like it. Just for me, like the DAZN deal. What's the point in having the DAZN deal in the UK if you're only getting selected fights? If we can get the whole Matchroom kind of label underneath that, just it'd be brilliant. It'd be great for us because the DAZN app is handy. You know, it's the DAZN app is actually so handy. I love the DAZN app. It's not always going to be £2, but enjoy it while you have it. I'd rather have it for £2 for the time being and end up paying something like 20 something than to not have it at all. Enjoy the DAZN app while you have it. For the first time, I've got some doubts AJ Fury might happen next. Do you know what, right? I'm starting to feel a bit like that as well. For the reason behind that is because you see Fury talk about inactivity and talking about the guy, what's his name? Oh, Billy Joe not being active enough, and you just think, oh, if he's talking about inactivity, he's talking about himself. And I'm just starting to wonder, will they push it back, or will Fury have an interim fight in age? I don't know. I think the fact that the WBO have ordered an interim fight for their title leads me to believe that it will happen next, that they will do it. But yeah, it is. It's getting a bit worrying now. I am a little bit. I'll admit, I still think it'll happen. I'm still holding out hope that it will, but it is a bit of a worry. Hope Conor Benn learns from his past couple of. Oh, I think I already read that, mates. But I definitely seen you left under a comment there. Oh, David Howe versus Tom Dallas, the battle of the chins, who wins? Honestly, man, you have to give it to Tom Dallas. David Howe has absolutely no chin to speak of. David Howe, what the fuck was? Oh yeah, David Howe looked like he should be a good fighter. You know, he's big, tall. He was always in shape, and he would just get absolutely, like, literally, you'd only have to touch David Howe's chin, and boom, there you go. Oh, there, and it's gone. You know, be a bit like that South Park scene when you touch David Howe's chin. Well, he's jabbing. You know, we'll just get the double jab going. He's moving. He's uses, and he's gone. Yeah, that was David Howe in a nutshell. Gee, man, when you're going to do live interviews, I'm working on it. I have someone who I'm going to interview in probably the end of March. we spoke about it there during the week, probably the end of March. We'll do an interview. That won't be live. I'm not doing that live. I'm not doing that live at all. No way. That one's going to be filmed, like filmed on this, but we're not going to do it live. In terms of other ones, I'm just trying to get fighters on, mate. It's just difficult. Just getting times and stuff like that, and But no, I have an interview with a fighter lined up for the end of March. After they've had their fight, they said they'll. Well, we talked about it before, but they said, look, I want to get my fight out of the way. They will do it straight after. So we'll do that, but that's definitely not going to be live. No way. I'm not doing that one live. No way. But we will do more live interviews when I get more fighters on. Every girl wants Freddie Roach. Man's built like a vibe. Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell. Who would you like to see Valdez take on next? Jesus. I genuinely didn't think he'd get through it, to be honest with you. Who was there in Top Rank? Who is there with Top Rank? Because guys like Davis, Santa Cruz, none of them will fight because it's the PBC Top Rank BS. I'm just trying to think who I'd like to see him fight next. I don't actually know. They'll probably do Shakur Stevens next. In fact, they'll probably definitely do with him next. I can't see them going any other way than sticking him in there with Stevens. They might, if Herring wins, they might try and do a unification with Herring, and then the winner fights Shakur Stevens or something like that. But that's really it. Other than that, that's all I can really see, to be honest with you. I can't see it going any other way. What's worse? Hardy Ben the boxer or Hardy Quinn the pundit? Definitely Hardy Quinn the pundit. Do you remember when Josh Kelly, he fought on that Next Gen show and Harley Quinn was commentating, and he knocked the guy out with like 6 hooks in a row, and Harley Quinn said this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer? I mean, it was from that moment on I realized that Josh Kelly is doomed. Because if Harley Quinn, put it like this, right? If Harley Quinn thinks you're a good prospect or a good shout, you're screwed, basically. Because if he thinks you're garbage and he thinks, oh no, I don't like this guy, then you're good. Harley Quinn thought Craig Glover was going to be a good shout as a prospect. Craig Glover, this guy got knocked out by, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like I think he's Hungarian, or he's from Czech Republic, actually. He's a cruiserweight. He got knocked out by David Price. This guy knocked out Craig Glover. Billum Smith knocked out Craig Glover. A good few people knocked out Craig Glover. And Bellew, Harley Quinn, made it out as though he was a good fighter. I mean, come on. Or a good prospect. Big Mick Hennessy undercard, the promoter, safe pair. Oh, yeah. Any fighters in a safe pair of hands at Mick Hennessy. Look at Isaac Chamberlain. A long-term deal with Mick Hennessy. I mean, good Lord. Saw a rumor about Haney Linares. Would like to see that. How you think it goes? Haney wins. Oh, no. Yeah, Haney wins. Linares has seen better days, mate. Linares has seen much, much better days at this stage. Like, he really... Linares has seen... But Haney, I don't know. Like, Dell rates Haney, and he really thinks that Haney is good. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm not convinced. Yeah, he's good. He's a good little technical boxer, but I'm still not near convinced that Haney is as good as some people make him out to be. I'd be picking Ryan Garcia over Devin Haney straight away. Straight away. Sky Boxing would die. Yeah, Sky Boxing would be completely screwed. They'd have to, no, they'd find ways. They'd just start work with Dave Coldwell or someone like that, like they used to do before. You know, they worked. Do you remember? It was better when they were doing, it wasn't, the fights weren't better, but the commentary and the broadcasting was better when they had all different promoters. They didn't have to be as biased. That was those were the days. Big up to Niall O'Connor. Shout out to him. Big up to Niall every single time. Any fights lined up, bro? When are you back in the ring? That's what I want to know. When do we get to see, well, you don't even have a nickname, actually. When do we get to see the Ginger Assassin back in the ring? We'll call you that. Niall the Ginger Assassin O'Connor. When are we going to get to see you back in the ring? The Sky commentary was better when it was Ben and Malinagi. Being a Malinagi or being a Macklin? Being Macklin, then being Macklin. Oh no, man. Holy shit. 20th March in Belgium. Happy out, man. That is actually not bad. That's a nice little quick turnaround. At least you get something that, man, that's actually great. Are you got any dates in America, or is that just a stay busy fight? Happy. Because if you can get me a link to that, I'll watch that happily. I'll happily watch that. It's just crap. We don't, man, I'm dying just to get to a show. Nasty Niall O'Connor. I like the ginger. The ginger what? We'll make something up, but we'll make something up. I think Eddie still needs Sky as the biggest platform. Yeah, but if the Zone are pumping so much money in, then I think it might be good. I think he might be okay. The Zone have deep pockets, so I think they could be okay in that sense. Oh yeah. Who wins? G-Man versus Blue Collar. Well, I'm a natural middleweight. I don't know about Dell. Dell might have the reach on me, but I'd fancy my chances. Definitely. Big up to Dell. Hopefully it happens. I think it's a stay busy. Fuck it, man. First fight in 2 years. Jesus, man. I'll leave it to you and your followers. Man, yeah, G-Man stops him. Yeah, with the left hook. The nice little left hook I throw. You know, big nasty G left hook. What we say there? Broner looked bad. Yeah, but man, Broner's not looked good. Broner's not had a meaningful win in what, 6-7 years. Like Fia Fane was his last stoppage win. He had a split decision. His last win before this was a split decision against, what was the guy's name? Adrian Granada. Man, Broner's finished, man. Absolutely finished. I'd stick you on the end of a jab, G-Man. I'm too slick. And I would bang the body left, right, and center. I'd be going for that body. If I have a lean body in front of me, I'm banging that body left, right, and center with hooks, upper, whatever I can throw. That's what I'd be doing there. And Alex Jones, Niall COVID O'Connor. Fucking hell, man. If Kelly moves up to super middleweight, that's some domestic division. He beat Fowler, I reckon. Fowler, he beat Cheeseman. He probably beat Cheeseman too. Cheeseman's not an effective pressure fighter. Well, considering Hatman is a heavyweight and I'm a middleweight, yeah, I don't fancy my chances, mate. I'd probably get, even now, I'd probably get taken out pretty quickly. You know, I'd still probably get taken out pretty quickly. You'll probably end up throwing 2 jabs around like AB. AB, man, that guy is just getting by on his name more so than anything else at this stage, mate. Do you think Dylan survives the Povetkin rematch? Not only do I think he survives, I'm thinking he knocks Povetkin out. I honestly, lads, right, at this stage now, I can't see it going any other way. The last time round, I really did have a feeling that Povetkin would win. You know, even though I didn't pick him, I was just like, you had that feeling. With this, it's just like Dylan White's just going to smash Povetkin. Yeah, he might get buzzed, he might get dropped, but I think Povetkin's had it. Like, look at the fight before the knockout. I thought that's the worst I ever saw Povetkin. His timing was off when he was throwing the hooks and he was looking for the hooks. Those were probably one of his best punches in his prime, if not the best punch. And his timing was all off with the hooks. Whenever Dylan White would come in, his punch resistance looked shaky. I think he set the shot up well. He landed it well. Dylan White will be wary because he knows Povetkin can knock him out. But other than that, I can't see it going any other way than Dylan White winning via knockout. Honestly, I'm telling you now, I will put money on it. I'll slap some money on Dylan White to win by knockout. 100% convinced. The last time I was just like, ooh, how is it going to happen? What's going to happen? This time I'm just like, no, Povetkin going to get knocked out. I'm convinced. I'm convinced this time around Povetkin's going to get knocked out. I don't know why. I just don't have any feeling it's going to go any other way. CG, what's up, G-Man? And you got to the party late because I'm actually going to finish this up now. I'm literally going to finish this up. Now, I was busy all day today, so I didn't know if I'd even get home in time to do this, but I did. And I said I'd go on for an hour before I make some videos for tomorrow. So, lads, I'm going to call this live stream here. But before I'm going to do it, I'm going to actually look up Joe, White never looked better and Povetkin never looked worse before that Hail Mary punch. Yeah, exactly. So I don't think it's going to change much, to be honest with you, mate. I really can't see it going any other way. Yeah, fuck's sake. I'm thinking of it, CG, right? Streams are always on when I'm at work. I'm thinking it because I was gonna, if I didn't get home early enough today, right, I was gonna do one tomorrow. I might still do one tomorrow anyway. I normally do Wednesday as well, but I might just do one tomorrow for the crack, tomorrow evening, just to get the week off, and get anything I want to say out of the way. There we go. Love Boxing TV, great show, G-Man. Hashtag G-Man's Rocks. Lads, they have a channel. I've been on their channel before. Great little channel. Go over there, give them a shout. Love Boxing TV. There we go. Do some good before I finish up. I probably will do a stream tomorrow as well. Probably tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock or so, give or take. And then we'll do our usual Wednesday stream. So lads, for now, I'm gonna call it quits. CG, big up to you, man. Hopefully you can get into the stream tomorrow, right? We're about 8 o'clock. But big up, hashtag G-Man's Rocks on the way out, of course. Lads, have a great week. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Monday. I'll see you. Peace.